Welcome back to Ben from the Bunker. I'm Ben Miller. I'm the editor in chief of Grow Publishing. And if you watch the other two videos, we talked about how to write a comic and how to do the art in a comic. So if you're one of those people that has the ability and the talent to do your own comic, then go do it now. Like, really, like right now, you should be off doing it because there's no excuse for you not to do it.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.
So for the rest of us who don't have the ability to do our own art, I'm going to go through the steps on how to get an artist to work with and how to set up that working relationship with an artist. The rule number one of working with any artist, I don't care if it's somebody you've known since, Superman draws, you got to have a contract to work with an artist. There are plenty of templates online for how to do a work for hire contract, or depending on if you're going to do shared ownership of the book or whatever. But always have a contract. You do not want to have an argument later about money.
I don't work without no fucking contract.
My buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy, my buddy and me.
My Buddy from Play School.
So if you aren't lucky enough to have a friend or a buddy that you can work with, that you can partner with, then you're going to have to pay someone. Now, there is more than one way to pay a person to do the work, but what you cannot do is go to an artist and tell them that they will gain experience and work for free. That does not work. We've heard it a million times before. You cannot do that. You can't spend experience in the store. They can't pay their rent with experience. They have to use money.
This look like money, motherfucker? Money be green. Money feel like money. That shit look green to you?
One way you can do it is you can say, I'll give you a percentage of the sales of the book. Now, a lot of artists are very hesitant to do this, and rightfully so. They don't know if anybody's going to buy your book. They don't know if it's going to, and you may have these delusions of grandeur that think, I've got the next big thing. It's going to be a movie, and they're passing up all this money. Let me just tell you that your first indie book is probably not going to be a huge success. And maybe you're the one that it is, but what I'm going to say is that the artist is right in worrying about, is there going to be any money come from this book later on? So this is not necessarily the best option. It's a good option for you if you can get someone to agree to it. And if you are known for someone that's been able to hustle and sell other books, some artists may. But for the artists themselves, it's not that good of a deal because they're going to be wondering where their money is 6 months down.
Stewie, hey.
Hey there. So, it's been 24 hours. Got my money?
Oh, you know what? Just give me till next Friday. I'll have it for you.
Oh, that's funny. I could have sworn I said have it today.
Yeah, I don't have it. Sorry.
Oh, well, all right then. That's good, OJ. Yeah, that hurt? That hurt?
What the hell?
Yeah, it don't feel so good, does it? No, huh? Yeah, that's what happens, man.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's what happens. Where's my money? You gonna give me my money? Where's my money, man? Where's the money? Yeah, you like that? That feel good? That feel good? Where's the money, man? Where's my money?
So there are two ways to go about paying an artist. One way you can just come straight out of pocket, pay them after they do their work, not before. Nobody gets paid before they work in this world. You have to, artists shouldn't expect to be paid up front, but after they do the work, some might ask for a deposit. I'm a little wary of that, but, if you're first time, you might want to go for that, but you should not be paying them much before they have completed the work. Whether that's you pay them after they complete the whole thing or in sections of, 5 pages at a time, whatever that may be. The other way is you can find an artist and have them do a few pages up front. Now, you're still going to have to pay for that, but then you can take those few pages and probably a cover and take it to Kickstarter and try to raise the funds to get the rest of the book done. You can't run a Kickstarter without any art. That's just not going to work. Kickstarter is, always a risk of whether it's going to get funded or not. I am going to do another video about how to run a Kickstarter, so there will be that. But it is hard. It is a lot of work. It is not just putting something up and people give you money. It's a lot of work. So remember that, that's part of it if that's the route you're going to go. I understand, everybody's finances aren't the same. So, but make sure that, your artist is signed on to do the book before you also go to Kickstarter, because you do not want to have 7 pages done, complete a Kickstarter, and now your artist takes off on you, and now you don't have a way to complete, your project to give to your backers. But make sure that you've locked your artist in before you go that route. So now comes the ultimate question of how do I find an artist? Where do I find an artist? And how much should I be paying them? Now, it used to be that, not too long ago, that if you were looking for an artist, one of the best places to go were comic book conventions. Go to a convention, you meet artists. Some of the bigger the convention, the bigger the artist, the higher the cost. But even some of these smaller conventions you go to, you find an artist, you talk to them about their page rate, you talk to them about what their availability is. You always ask how long if they've got sequential work, which means comic book work, like actual comic work. If they don't have any of this, they are not yet a comic artist. They are just somebody that does, like a pinup. And that's great if you're looking for a coverist, but if they've never done sequential art, that's probably not who you want to start with. But ask them how long it takes them to do a page, because if it takes them 3 months to do one page, then that's not the artist for you either. Starting out in your first book, you should be looking in the $50 to $75, pencils and inks range, the $20 to $40 colorist range. You should be able to find somebody to do letters for under $10 or $10. Those are, and these are all per page rates, obviously. Covers obviously are a little bit more. But if you're hiring an artist to do the whole thing, sometimes if you get the same artist to do the cover, then you don't have to worry about quite as much on the cover price. Sometimes they'll cut you a deal. Not always. Sometimes the artist is like, this is my price to do covers or whatever. But then finding these artists is getting a little bit harder. Like I said, right now during quarantine, it used to be, like I said, you could just go to a convention, you could meet up with different artists, talk to them. You can kind of tell by talking who's interested and who's not. But now, there's other ways to find an artist now that conventions are kind of gone by the wayside for the near future.
Everybody gather around. We're gonna tell the story of the before time again.
Story time.
Way back, in the long, long ago.
So now that you can't necessarily right now anyway, maybe you're watching this video in the future and you can just go to conventions and talk to artists that way. But right now, in the time of COVID, you can't really just go out and meet artists right now. So the other way to do it is through social media, through DeviantArt, going through looking for someone not only that is a good artist, but whose art fits your book. That's important no matter what where you're finding an artist. Finding someone whose art fits your book. If you're looking for a real gritty style and you find this great artist that does, more all ages looking stuff, that doesn't fit what you're trying to do. Now, some artists can do more than one style, and that's great if you found somebody who can do that. But make sure you're finding someone that fits your style, that fits your budget, and that, that is capable, gets the work done, and can do it in a reasonable amount of time. So you can do that through Instagram, going through looking at pages, looking at things like that, trying to find that person. It's going to be harder right now, I'm telling you that. But no matter whether you're finding somebody at a convention or whatever, you should still check their social media before you hire them, because you do not necessarily want to be associated with certain things. There was an artist I was thinking about working with, and then went to his social media, and all his social media was filled with jokes about rape and pedophilia and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to necessarily be associated with that. So I'm not going to work with that person. This is also a tip for artists or writers or whatever. Be careful what you post. It's always there. And, there's certain things that people aren't going to necessarily want to work about. I'm not talking about politics or whatever. I'm talking about like things that would be found offensive to pretty much every person. And so you're going to want to check the social media of that person anyhow. But that's how you're going to have to do it right now is you're going to have to go through social media. And remember, there's going to be some people that will be like, well, I'm a $100 a page artist. Okay, then that's not the artist for you. Now you can try to say, well, this is what I have to offer. Sometimes maybe they'll come down on their price because there's a lot of artists out there that say they're $100 per page artists, but never been paid $100 per page to do art. So if you're offering $75 and you're like, I have the money's here. It's gonna, as soon as you get the work done, money's yours. Especially right now with people might be in the need of money or whatever. I'm not saying take advantage of people or anything like that, but you should be able to find an artist for a decent rate. Again, if your budget is low, don't go to, some of the big, don't go to Jim Lee and be like, hey, can you draw my book? Even if your budget was high, you couldn't get somebody like that. You have to understand your limitations. You have to understand where you are at to start out. If you're starting out, you're at stage 1. Don't go to somebody that's at stage 10 and expect them to cut you a deal or even necessarily want to work with you. Now, sometimes you can find somebody that's willing to work with you that's a little further along in their journey than you, which is great. That happened with me in the first book, but you're going to end up paying for that too. The more experience someone has, the more they're going to charge, rightfully so. So be conscious of that when you're looking into doing an artist. Also be conscious of, be very careful of if you're on social media and their art doesn't really look the same. Like some art looks amazing and some art looks not good at all. I mean, obviously, if it's over time, that makes sense. But otherwise, it might just be somebody that's tracing certain things and then putting some of their other art, and then you get their art, and it's not what you want or need for your book. So be careful of that. You're going to have to, like I said, you're going to have to be out there grinding and searching. It's a hunt. But there are artists out there looking for work. So if you're able to connect with one of those artists, make sure, like I said, always have a contract. That way everybody knows what's expected, when it's expected, if there are penalties, if it's late. I always like to give artists a grace period, but I have had to now start putting into the contracts penalties for late work just because I've had some bad, problems with artists just not getting their works done, not, being way, I'm like talking about like years late on their work. So that's why I think you need to make sure you always have a contract with working with an artist. Obviously, this is a tough situation, and like we've always said at conventions, and I always say this now, if you have questions, email me at Guerrilla Publishing Group at gmail.com. I'll try to answer your questions. If you have other questions, put them in the comments below. I'll try to answer them there. Because, this indie comic book thing is a community, and we want to see everybody succeed. And if you're first starting out, we all remember how that was. So we want to, the guys of us at Guerrilla definitely want to make sure that we're helping out the next generation of guys that are entering this indie business. So, as always, keep reading indie comics and support your local comic book shop. I'll see you next time.